1967. Inside the shadowy hallways of a busy film studio, Bruce Lee stood on the edge of the most dangerous moment of his life. What happened that day was filmed, but then quietly locked away. Not because it was boring or unimportant, but because the people who witnessed it understood something unsettling. This wasn't acting. This wasn't choreography. This was real combat. Bruce Lee was being pushed harder than ever before. Only a small number of people are still alive who can confirm what truly took place. It began as a challenge from the shadows and quickly became a test of pride, honor, and survival, one that nearly destroyed everything Bruce Lee had worked for. If cameras hadn't been rolling, the moment would have disappeared forever. Some believe this encounter reshaped Bruce Lee as a fighter. Others say it was the night his legend was truly born. What everyone agrees on is this: the truth stayed hidden for more than 30 years. This is that story. By 1967, Bruce Lee was standing at a turning point in his life. Years earlier, he had left Hong Kong for the United States with big dreams of breaking into Hollywood. Despite his incredible skill, the path wasn't easy. As an Asian actor, leading roles were rare. Still, Bruce made his mark. He trained Hollywood stars, stunned audiences with private demonstrations, and created his own fighting philosophy, Jeet Kune Do. Yet none of that was enough. His role as Kato in The Green Hornet had ended, and the offers stopped coming. Hollywood wasn't ready to see him as a leading man. With doors closing, Bruce returned to Hong Kong, the city where his journey had begun. There he met Raymond Chow, a bold producer who saw what others had missed. Chow believed Bruce Lee could change martial arts films forever. He offered him something America never did: the lead role. At Golden Harvest Studios, a new kind of action movie was taking shape, and Bruce Lee was its centerpiece. But success attracts attention, and not all of it is friendly. News spread fast through the Hong Kong underground fighting world. Bruce Lee was back. The man who had trained with legends like Chuck Norris and James Coburn. The man who claimed to have created a new fighting system that challenged traditional martial arts. To some, this was exciting. To others, it was an insult. One of those people was Chen Wei. Chen Wei wasn't famous, and he didn't care about movies. But in the alleyways and rooftop gyms of Kowloon, his name carried weight and fear. He was a master of Choi Li Foot, a powerful and unforgiving fighting style. He had fought in illegal matches with no rules and no mercy, and he had never been defeated. When Chen Wei heard Bruce Lee talk about the way of no way, about rejecting rigid traditions, it enraged him. To Chen, this wasn't innovation. It was disrespect, a slap in the face to generations of masters who had devoted their lives to their art. He decided Bruce Lee needed to be challenged. One Tuesday afternoon, Chen Wei walked straight into the Golden Harvest studio. He didn't check in, he didn't ask permission. He passed confused guards and headed straight for Soundstage 3, where Bruce Lee was rehearsing fight scenes. The room fell silent when Chen Wei entered. He was tall, broad, and imposing. His hands were thick and scarred from years of brutal training. His eyes held the confidence of someone who had already proven himself in real fights. The air shifted. The stunt team stepped back without thinking. They recognized the energy immediately. This man wasn't there to watch. He was there to test. Bruce Lee was demonstrating a move when he noticed the stranger. He paused. Those who knew Bruce recognized the look on his face: calm, focused, alert. Then Chen Wei spoke. "Bruce Lee?" His voice was cold and sharp, cutting through the silence. He spoke without respect, without hesitation. "I've heard about you, about your new way, your better way." Bruce turned to face him fully. His voice remained steady. "I don't believe we've met." "No, but I know your kind. You go to America, learn a few tricks, then come back thinking you're greater than the traditions that shaped you, greater than the masters who devoted their lives to their art." The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Everyone knew this was no longer a conversation. "I respect all martial arts," Bruce said calmly. "Jeet Kune Do isn't about being better, it's about being honest, about what truly works." Chen Wei smiled, but there was no warmth in it, not even a trace.
"Then prove it," Chen Wei said coldly. "Right here, right now. No cameras, no tricks, no movie magic, just you and me. Unless the great Bruce Lee only knows how to fight on film." The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Everyone in the studio understood what this meant. This was no longer about theory or philosophy. This was about respect, about reputation, about everything Bruce Lee had spent his life building. Bruce stared at Chen Wei in silence. He had options. He could call security. He could shut this down with calm words and authority. He could walk away. But that had never been his way. "All right," Bruce finally said, his voice quiet but firm. "But we do this the right way, not like animals. We need witnesses, we need rules." Chen Wei laughed, sharp and bitter. "I don't need rules, but if it helps you sleep, fine, set it up." What neither man realized was that Raymond Cho had been watching from above, standing in the producer's booth. Cho immediately grasped the seriousness of what was unfolding. If this fight happened, it needed to be recorded, not for publicity, but for protection, for proof. He leaned toward his cameraman, a seasoned professional named Lau, and whispered, "Film everything. No matter what happens, don't stop." The news spread fast. Within 20 minutes, Soundstage 3 had changed completely. What had been a rehearsal space became a makeshift arena. Crew members, stunt performers, producers, and actors from nearby sets gathered in a wide circle around the cleared floor. The tension was overwhelming. Everyone sensed they were about to witness something rare, maybe something that would never be repeated. Bruce stepped into one corner and removed his shirt. His body wasn't bulky or exaggerated. It was lean, sharp, and powerful, built for movement, not show. He warmed up briefly, each motion smooth and controlled. There was no stiffness, no wasted energy. Compared to other fighters, Bruce moved differently, purposefully. Across the floor, Chen Wei stood completely still. He didn't stretch, he didn't prepare. His massive arms were crossed, his eyes locked on Bruce. His calm was unsettling. This was a man shaped by real violence, not competition or training halls. His stillness alone made people uneasy. Raymond Cho stepped forward, his face serious. "If this is happening, there must be limits. This is not a street brawl." Chen Wei spat on the floor. "I came for a real fight." "And you'll get one," Bruce replied evenly. "But we agree on basic rules. No eye attacks, no throat or groin strikes. If someone yields, it ends." "I won't yield," Chen Wei said flatly. "Then it ends when one of us can't continue, or when I decide it's over." Chen Wei narrowed his eyes, then nodded. "Enough talking." Among the crowd stood David Chen, one of Bruce's students who had followed him from America. Years later, David would recall that moment with a shaking voice. "I'd seen Bruce spar countless times, but I had never seen him fight for real. None of us had. And in that moment, I knew we were about to witness something that would change how people understood combat." Also watching was Nora Miao, an actress who would later appear in several of Bruce's films. She had arrived for a costume fitting and walked straight into the tension. It felt terrifying, like watching two wild animals circling each other. You knew someone was going to get hurt. Raymond Cho raised his hand. "The cameras are rolling. You're both doing this by choice." Both men nodded. Raymond dropped his hand. "Begin." For 3 long seconds, nothing happened. They stood roughly 20 feet apart, studying each other. Bruce's posture looked almost casual, hands loose, shoulders relaxed. Chen Wei dropped into a traditional Choi Li Fut stance, fists raised, body loaded with power. Then Chen Wei charged. For a man his size, his speed was shocking. He closed the distance in 2 strides and fired a straight punch that could have broken bone. Bruce wasn't there. He shifted just enough for the punch to miss. The rush of air from Chen Wei's fist was loud enough to be heard across the room. Chen Wei spun instantly and threw a brutal hook. Again, Bruce avoided it, leaning back by inches. The crowd gasped. They had never seen defense like this. No wasted motion, no panic. "Stand still and fight!" Chen Wei shouted, already frustrated. Bruce didn't answer. His eyes never left his opponent. He was watching everything: balance, breath, timing. Chen Wei attacked harder now. Punches, low kicks, heavy blows meant to end the fight in one hit. None landed. Bruce moved like flowing water, always just out of reach. Beautiful to watch, maddening to face. Then, without warning, Bruce struck. A single straight lead punch, fast, sharp, precise. It snapped Chen Wei's jaw and forced him back a step. The room buzzed. That was the first clean hit. Chen Wei touched his jaw, surprise flashing across his face, then anger. "So you can hit. Good. Now it's real." What followed stayed burned into everyone's memory. Chen Wei stopped trying to be technical. He became relentless. He stormed forward with a storm of punches, elbows, knees, and kicks, powered by years of brutal training and real fights. Each strike sounded like thunder cutting through the air. Bruce answered with pure control. He blocked, redirected, and slipped attacks using a mix of Wing Chun, boxing, fencing, and his own Jeet Kune Do ideas. This wasn't a demonstration anymore. This was survival. For the first time, the crowd saw Bruce truly tested. One heavy blow slammed into Bruce's forearm during a block. The sound was sickening. Bruce's expression tightened for just a moment. His arm would bruise badly, though he would never speak of it. They separated briefly, both breathing harder now, circling again. Sweat shone under the bright studio lights. The cameras captured every second. "You're fast," Chen Wei admitted between breaths. "Speed isn't everything," Bruce replied calmly. "Neither is strength," Chen Wei shot back. "You're about to understand why I created Jeet Kune Do."
Chen Wei stumbled backward, his guard falling apart, his breathing rough and uneven. For the first time since stepping into the studio, uncertainty crossed his face. He'd faced many opponents, some larger, some stronger, but never anyone like this. Bruce Lee didn't fight with predictable patterns. There was no rhythm to follow, no formula to counter. Every movement was different. Every strike carried a new purpose. "This is Jeet Kune Do," Bruce said evenly, despite the strain in his voice. "Not a style, not a system, just what works, right now, against you." Chen Wei wiped blood from his mouth. Seeing it only fueled something deep and primal inside him. "I'm not finished," he growled, "not even close." What happened next stunned everyone in the room, including Bruce. Without warning, Chen Wei dropped low and charged forward, abandoning striking altogether. He wrapped his powerful arms around Bruce's waist and drove him backward with raw strength, pushing him toward the concrete wall of the soundstage. The crowd gasped. If Bruce hit that wall at full speed, with Chen Wei's weight behind him, the fight could end instantly. His career, maybe worse, could be over. But Bruce Lee had prepared for this. As they moved backward, Bruce lowered his center of gravity, hooked his leg behind Chen Wei's, and twisted his hips. It was a judo throw, adapted, refined, and made his own. Chen Wei suddenly found himself lifted off the ground before crashing hard onto the floor. They hit with thunderous force. Dust burst into the air. For a brief moment, neither man moved. Then Bruce flowed into action. He shifted smoothly into a mounted position, pinning Chen Wei with balance and precision that looked closer to Brazilian jiu-jitsu than traditional kung fu, years before most people had even heard of it. His knees locked Chen Wei's arms, his fist was raised, ready. Chen Wei bucked and twisted, his strength still terrifying, but Bruce's base held firm. His understanding of leverage was absolute. "Yield," Bruce said, calm but unyielding. "This is over." "Never," Chen Wei spat. Bruce's face hardened. He lowered his raised fist and placed his hand firmly but gently on Chen Wei's throat, not choking, just demonstrating complete control. "I don't want to hurt you more than necessary," Bruce said quietly, so only Chen Wei could hear. "You're a skilled fighter. You've proven that. Yield with honor." Chen Wei searched Bruce's face, expecting mockery or triumph. He found neither, only respect. His body relaxed. "I yield," he said hoarsely. Bruce released him immediately and stood, extending a hand. After a long pause, Chen Wei accepted it, letting Bruce pull him to his feet. The studio erupted in applause, but neither man seemed to notice. They stood facing each other, bruised, bleeding, breathing hard, changed. "You are exactly who they said you were," Chen Wei said, bowing his head slightly. "I came here full of pride and anger. That was my mistake. You pushed me harder than anyone has in years. Choi Li foot is devastating. If even one of those strikes had landed clean, I'd be the one on the floor." Raymond Chow stepped forward, relief written across his face. "It's over?" he asked. "It's over," both men said, at the same time, then shared a brief smile despite swollen lips and battered faces. But the most important moment came after. As the crowd slowly drifted away, buzzing with excitement, Chen Wei turned back. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Why didn't you finish it? You had me. You could have ended it completely." Bruce wiped sweat from his face and thought for a moment. "Because fighting isn't about domination. It's about understanding. You challenged me, and you did so with courage and skill. What would humiliation accomplish?" Chen Wei nodded slowly. "In underground fights, mercy gets you killed." "This wasn't an underground fight," Bruce replied, "and I'm not trying to kill anyone. I'm trying to show a better way, of fighting and of living." That quiet exchange, captured faintly on film, revealed something Bruce's movies never could. His philosophy wasn't only about efficiency, it was about humanity. David Chen, Bruce's student, stepped forward nervously. "Sifu, are you okay?" Bruce flexed his bruised arm and winced. "I'll feel it tomorrow. Chen Wei hits like a truck. If a few of those had landed—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Nora Mia returned with towels filled with ice. Handing one to Bruce, she whispered, "That was the most frightening and beautiful thing I've ever seen." Bruce smiled through the pain. Beauty and danger often walk together in martial arts. As the adrenaline faded, something unexpected happened. Bruce and Chen Wei sat together, icing their injuries, calmly discussing techniques. Chen Wei asked questions about Jeet Kune Do, not with anger, but curiosity. Bruce asked about iron palm training. "I've been fighting for 15 years, Chen Wei said quietly, "but today was the first time I truly learned something." "What was that?" Bruce asked. "That there's more than one path to truth." Raymond Chow watched from a distance. The footage was incredible, but it could never be released. Not now. It showed Bruce Lee not as untouchable, but as human. "Lock it away," Raymond told the cameraman. "No one sees it." "Why?" Lau asked. "This would make him legendary." "Legends need mystery," Raymond replied. "The world isn't ready to see how real this was." That evening, Bruce sat alone in his dressing room, staring at his bruised hands. The fight had lasted only minutes, but it reminded him of something vital. Real combat is messy,
dangerous, honest. There was a knock. Chen Wei entered carrying 2 bottles of medicinal wine. "For the pain," he said, offering one. They sat in silence. "I'm going back to my school tomorrow," Chen Wei said quietly, "but I needed to thank you." "For what?" Bruce asked. "For not humiliating me, for showing me that growth isn't betrayal." He paused. "I thought you disrespected tradition. Now I see. You're keeping it alive." Bruce smiled softly. "The old masters would have done the same. They created what worked for their time. I'm just continuing that work." "I'll teach differently now," Chen Wei said. "Not about losing, but about learning." After he left, David Chen returned. "Sifu, the crew's worried about filming tomorrow." "Makeup will handle it. What happened today mattered more than any scene." "Why?" Bruce looked out at the Hong Kong skyline. "Because today I had to prove the truth, not in theory, not in rehearsal, but against someone real." David Chen nodded. "Do you think the footage will ever be released?" Bruce shook his head. "I hope not. The world still needs heroes."
"David," Bruce said softly, "people need something to believe in, something bigger than themselves. That footage shows a man who bleeds, who struggles, who could have lost. That's not what most people want to see." "But isn't that more inspiring?" David asked, "knowing you're human and still prevail?" Bruce thought about it for a long moment. "Maybe someday," he said, "just not yet." Chen Wei kept his word. He returned to his school and began teaching differently. While honoring the foundations of Troy Lee Foot, he quietly added lessons about adaptability, efficiency, and real-world application. He never spoke publicly about the fight. Among true fighters, some things don't need to be announced. But to a few trusted students, he would sometimes say, "I once fought the greatest martial artist of our time. I lost, but in 5 minutes, I learned more than I had in 15 years of winning." When Bruce Lee died suddenly in 1973, at just 32 years old, Chen Wei attended the funeral. He stood near the back as thousands mourned the legend they knew from the screen, but Chen Wei mourned something different. The man he had met in that studio, a man of extraordinary skill and even greater character. The footage remained hidden for decades. Raymond Chow passed away in 2018, carrying many secrets with him. Before his death, however, he arranged for certain archival materials to be preserved and, when the time was right, reviewed. In 2019, during a routine effort to digitize Golden Harvest's old film archives, a young preservation specialist named Jennifer Wong discovered a metal canister marked with Raymond Chow's personal seal. Inside was the footage, black and white, grainy, but unmistakably real. Its discovery sparked intense debate. Would releasing it damage Bruce Lee's legacy or deepen it? His family was consulted. Martial arts historians weighed in. After careful discussion, a decision was made. The footage would be released in a limited format with full context. When it finally appeared online, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Millions watched, not a choreographed icon, but a real man facing a dangerous opponent. They saw Bruce struggle. They saw him bleed. They saw him adapt. And most importantly, they saw the moment when he helped Chen Wei to his feet, when 2 warriors acknowledged each other's worth. The response was powerful. This makes me respect Bruce Lee even more. The mercy at the end, that's true martial arts. I've watched his movies my whole life, but this taught me more about him than all of them combined. David Chen, now an elderly teacher in Los Angeles, was later interviewed about the footage. "I was there," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I saw my teacher tested in a way few people ever witnessed, and I saw him prove that Jeet Kune Do wasn't just an idea, it was the living truth of martial arts."
The footage began appearing in martial arts schools around the world, not as an example of perfect technique, but as a lesson in something far more important: adaptability, humility, respect, and the courage to be tested. In a way, it fulfilled Bruce Lee's original vision, not of being an untouchable hero, but of teaching honest self-expression, of using what works, of being like water, shaping itself to the moment. As Bruce had once said, sitting alone with bruised hands and a swollen arm, the truth of fighting is messy, it's uncomfortable, but it's real, and real is what matters. Chen Wei passed away in 2015, before the footage was ever released, but his final student, Master Liu, later shared something Chen Wei had told him years earlier. "I fought Bruce Lee once. He could have humiliated me. Instead, he made me better. That's the difference between a fighter and a martial artist." In the end, the story of that fight in 1967 isn't about who won or lost. It's about two warriors who tested each other honestly and were changed by it. It's about the moment when philosophy met reality and proved itself true. And it's about Bruce Lee, not as a superhero, but as a human being who devoted his life to growth, truth, and excellence. If those cameras hadn't been rolling that day, the story would have faded into rumor and myth, but they were rolling, and now the world knows what really happened when Bruce Lee faced his greatest test, not on screen, not in a tournament, but in a real fight that revealed the man behind the legend. Because legends aren't weakened by their humanity, they are defined by it.